My name is Mary Ellen Morrison. I'm director of the Handbell Choir here at Suncrest United Methodist Church. My husband and I moved to Morgantown in 1968. At that time, I had just finished my graduate work in music, and I wanted to be of help at the church. I took over directing the teen choir, choosing music for them. They sang for the early service. But I really liked doing outreach kind of things, so what I started doing with them was finding places that we could do something in the community. At that point in time, there was a worship service at the hospital that took place in the chapel of the hospital, and it was piped from the chapel to the patients' rooms. So the teens prepared a service of music and scripture, just like a regular half-hour worship service, and then we would go over to the chapel and we would do the service, and it would be piped up to it. And we would do that at Christmas time, and once or twice throughout the year we would go over and do a radio broadcast there at the hospital. I continued to work with the teens. We did a musical every year. I loved doing that kind of thing. I liked arranging music. The kids did, there were enough of the kids that played instruments that I could write out the parts for them and have a pianist and the kids singing, and we had our own little music group going. Every year I tried to find something new that I could do with the teens, because I have these same kids year after year, and so you can't just, it's not like teaching school where you have a class and then you have a different class the next year. When you're in a church program, you have the same kids coming through the program, so you've got to come up with new ideas. Sometimes those ideas would be a musical that we could do, or a program such as going to the hospital to do the worship service. 77, my son John is born in May. That meant for the whole summer, I was not able to get out and look for something new. It got to be August, and church was starting their programs again. I came to church, I sat in the back of the sanctuary, and I heard the music that was on that morning. And it was something I had never heard before. I did not know it was going to be there, but it was beautiful. And I thought, as I was listening to it, that's it. That's my new thing. That's what I want to do. So as soon as the worship service was over, I went up front to see what it was that was happening. Donna Kinsey had brought her bell choir here to be a part of the service. I asked about the bells. I don't even know if I'd met Donna before or not, because it was new to me and the handbells were new to me. But I asked about them, and she showed me what was involved with it, and I thought, I can do this. All I have to do is learn how to manage the bells, how to ring the bells. I know I can teach it to somebody else. But then I asked about the cost, and I thought, oh, there goes that idea, because it was beyond what I would have imagined would be possible to do. It may have only been like $3,000 or $4,000, but to me, at that time in life, $3,000 or $4,000 was huge. And I never dreamed of asking anybody else to come up with $3,000 or $4,000. But Pastor Paul Smith was standing there and started talking to me, and I said, I would just love to do this, but it would take a huge guardian angel to be able to do it. And he said, well, how much are we talking? And I told him what it would cost, and he says, you know, I just may have that guardian angel for you. And I looked at him, I said, are you kidding? And he says, no, I'm not. So I said, okay. So I went to Donna and I learned what to do with the bells, and he went and found his guardian angel, and he went to the order book and he ordered the bells, and they arrived. They arrived in the fall, soon enough for me to practice with the teens so that they could play for Christmas, and they did. Once the teen choir was established ringing the bells, then I invited the adults to come and try ringing. I decided it needed to have a goal for us, so I said, we are going to learn to ring some music and take it to the nursing homes. And we had a great time, and they progressed in their abilities, and I progressed in my ability to teach and know what to do to make it be better. And we got brave enough to go to an area festival. And when we went to Pittsburgh, we knew we were going to have a name, and an outfit. And so that got tossed around a little bit. But because we like to go out away from the church, I really liked the name, the Drum and Ringers. He was a circuit rider, and he rode out into the community and took the gospel to the people and took the caring to the people. Drum and Ringers became our name. Dorothy Smith, the pastor's wife, was also, I want to say, a home ec major. She was a sewing major. And she made the first table covers for us to go on our tables to cover the pads that you have. But we wanted an outfit. And someone found out that there is a Drummond plaid. It is a clan plaid out of Scotland. So we wrote and had the materials sent from Scotland to the church. We set up sewing machines in Fellowship Hall and had like a sewing bee. One table was cutting out patterns, and it was almost like a little factory. You know, you do this part of the skirt and you do this part of the skirt. The outfit was a wraparound skirt that was fastened with Velcro. One of the most rewarding things that we've done with the Bell Choir is the outreach program. The first outreach that I did here in Morgantown for the prison was taking a teen group out to do the musical Barbecue for Ben. It's a modernization of The Prodigal Son, and they did a wonderful job with it. It was so well received. Now, part of the reason that we got the invitation to do this in the first place is that the chaplain of the prison was married, and his wife joined the Bell Choir. And so I was talking, he would talk with a group or pick up his wife or whatever, and he said, why don't you bring the kids out to do this at the prison? So we did. And after we did, it was so well received. What he said is that the men, first of all, related to the prodigal son story. They also were not around their family as much as they had been before, and just seeing the youth brought back memories, and there were mega tears from the prisoners when we finished up that particular time. The chaplain approached me and he said, why don't you come out with the Bell Choir? And initially I thought, I didn't think that a group of men would really care for the Bell Choir. I hadn't pictured it. But I said, sure, we'll try it. Well, we went out just with a music program to share with them. And I was totally awed by the experience. They loved it. Music does its own thing. The bells, when they are played, they can be very tender. They can be very, very beautiful. A very soft, gentle scene that you produce. Or they can be very energetic and joyful. And you can pick that up when you listen to them. The men were just wonderful. They were wonderful. And they invited us back multiple times. Well, I decided I didn't want to just go for a program. If I was going to go, I wanted to have a message. So I decided to make a worship service that I built the message, and then I illustrated each point of the message with bell music. And we always called these like sermons illustrated in bronze. And that's what I started doing, is making the worship services where I went, and it was illustrated in bronze. Other churches found out that we were doing this, and we started getting invitations to go to the small churches around here. So we took the program to the prison, but we also took it to, just kind of went around the community. Practically every small church around here at one time or another has had us visit with one of our programs that we took to the prison. The prison, we only went once a year. The population changed, the rules changed, it became harder to get in. We couldn't have any teens with us for a while. Regulations were changed a lot, but we were able to work around those and still go. What I have to say, one of the prisoners wrote a thank you note to us after we had been out there probably twice. And he was so moved by the music that he said one of the things that happened is that he felt like once they're there, it's like they're shunned. They feel like they're being shunned by everybody. But he said, we weren't shunned by you. We were cared for. And that meant a lot to them. They really wanted us to come out. And by the time we had gone out, probably 4 times, but not necessarily every year, over from 1 through, I'm thinking, 4 years and then another 4 years. At the end of that time, we had a couple of the prisoners come up to us to say, I wanted to let you know we're going home soon. And it's like, even though we had only been there maybe 4 or 5 times during the whole time that they were there, it was important for them to share with us, like we were part of their family. The thing that I want to say about music, ringing is not just playing notes on the right beat. It has to go beyond that. If it is music that is tender, you've got to find a way to make it be tender so that everyone experiences that feeling. If it is music that is reassuring, you've got to play it in such a manner that they're moved by that. If it is joyful, they've got to feel like they got to get up and do this and say, yes, yes, amen. We started out with 1 set of bells, 3 octaves. And then I had a young girl from the university who came and rang with us. She was a cellist, which is what brought her in here in the first place. But she had rung in a choir that was more than 3 octaves, and so she said, oh, you need to hear the sound of the bigger bells. You'll really love them. And so she really convinced me that we need to investigate expanding the bells. It also meant more people could ring too. So we expanded to 4 octaves. And the only way we were able to do that is because there were memorial gifts. And then the same thing when we expanded out to 5. Now, after that, it just meant I had just 1 choir that could play. And I really had, what if I wanted the teens and the drum and ringers to play it together? Or other adults to be able to play and play as a double bell choir. Now, when you take that into consideration, when we go out to ring, whether we ring in worship or whether we ring in outreach, we're taking those bells with us. And so we have the honor of, the responsibility of the fact that what we do, if we do it well, is going to imprint a memory. That it also means that carrying and whatever it is that, I want to say the magic of music, that may not be a good term to use, but in my life it kind of is that way. It goes across the miles, it goes across the ages, it goes across any kind of barriers you can have. And we kind of take that with us with the fact that we have the memorial bells with us when we ring. It's just an added dimension to what we're doing. Writing for bells has increased. People have been creative and have come up with new techniques that weren't being used before. When you first started out, bells were rung and you just got plain sound. They started using a lot more of melloting the bells and having rhythmic accompaniment to some of the things, and this became very exciting in terms of the rhythmic drive that you can get. One of the newer techniques that we've come across is called a singing bell. We take a wooden doweling. Justin Beeson made ours for us. We read about it and I got the music and I said, okay, we got to figure this out. So he got the doweling, cut it into links. You hold the doweling in this hand and you hold the bell in this hand with the lip of the bell up. And you start running that doweling around the outside of the lip and the bell will start to hum. And it's a very ethereal sound. It's beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. It's a little bit the kind of science that you have if you've ever seen water glasses where they run the fingers around the outside rim of, well, that's in some ways what you're doing with the bell this way. And you create an underneath harmony that can last for a very long time over which you put a melody. And that's gorgeous. It's what I call, sometimes I tell the ringers, we're creating bell mist, or it's an ethereal effect that you can create over which you put your melody or whatever you're doing. I have to mention one other person, and that's Margaret Gill. She was, if not one of the original ringers, at least one who joined within a year or two when we started. Margaret also was the one who insisted we had to go get a copy of the Lord's Prayer for the bell choir. So there were ways in that she would come in, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. After multiple years of being here, she finally retired and moved closer to where her daughters were. And we had a retirement ceremony for her at the church. After she moved to where she was going to be in Maryland, she said, you have to come play, you have to come play. We were 1 or 2 years before we were able to do that, but we did go. We did, and we shared with the people, and she was walking around, see, this is what I'm telling you, I've been a part of. This is what it's like. And it was a wonderful sharing experience. It was only probably about a year after that Margaret passed. And she passed over the Christmas holidays, and we were all off. We had already done Christmas Eve, and were gone. And Margaret had requested that we play for her memorial service. And I said, oh, Tim, how on earth can we do that? But we made calls back and forth, and the family decided they would wait until I must have been early January, where everybody could be back together again. And so the ringers came together and we played for her service. I mentioned Edie Sharp. She was very, I want to say big in what happened, influential in what happened in music here at the church. I didn't get to know her a whole lot, but I do know that I was a recipient of a lot of the things that she was behind the scenes helping with. When she passed away, I got together a memorial service for her that was a combination of the children's choir, the teen choir, and the handbell choirs. And we had a whole memorial service that was music-oriented for Edie Sharp. We've played for a couple of weddings. When we first started out, I said, how can we play for a wedding when there's no more space in front? Mary Lewis's husband built a brace. They were spaced across the pews all the way from the center aisle to the side aisle, and then we folded our tables up and put the legs underneath and set the tables on top of those braces and then put the pads on top of the tables. And we rang that way from the back of the church for a couple of weddings and for Christmas Eve, because there were so many things happening on Christmas Eve, there wasn't room for us up front. I have to say, Tim has been really gracious about creating space and making sure space is available for some Sundays when the bells ring. Because we've expanded, we take more space, and it means moving the piano around a little bit, but everybody's been so gracious to say, okay, find your space and then we'll fit around it. And it has worked very well. I use the illustration of a prism. If you shine light through it, the light is changed into the rainbow, is converted. If you think of those three things, a light, a white light, the prism, and the rainbow, the musicians are the prism. What all of this is going to go through. But for us in the music situation in church, the white light is the Spirit of God. And if you let that work through you, that which you do and what other people will see will bring to focus the rainbow, the multi-wonderful parts of life.